Welcome to today's video. Today we're breaking down the clash of two titans, US President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin, a former KGB spy, clash at a remote airbase in Alaska, Elmendorf. Above, a B-2 Spirit bomber and F-35 fighters rip through the clouds, a stunning display of American might. This summit isn't just talk, it's a psychological showdown to shape the Russia-Ukraine war, a conflict that's ravaged lives and borders for over 3 years now. And as Ron Burgundy would say, wow, this really escalated quickly.
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
So what did Putin likely demand? Well, I'm going to talk to you from my strategic perspective of being a fighter pilot. I'll bring in Bodie into the studio and he'll talk to us about his strategic perspective of being a commander at an Alaskan Air Force base. He was actually a commander at a base in northern Alaska. So he'll talk about some of the strategic stakes and some things that we can think about how this might play out. So what did Putin likely demand? How did Trump likely fight back? And what's next for Ukraine's survival? Strap in. This is a story of power, cunning, and defiance, with a few big guns flexing their muscles. At Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Trump and Putin faced off. Their aides, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russia's Sergei Lavrov, were scribbling notes. No cameras, no transcripts, just insider reports about what likely unfolded. On August 16th, Trump announced a bold pivot on Truth Social, pushing for a full peace agreement to end the war, bypassing a ceasefire and setting the stage for talks with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Trump declared on Truth Social that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement, which would end the war and not a mere ceasefire agreement, which oftentimes doesn't hold up, reversing his pre-summit call for a ceasefire first, per sources briefed on calls with European leaders. But what were the likely demands? Let's jump into some hypothetical scenarios. So Putin potentially demanded Ukraine to cede Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and recognize Crimea as Russian, plus remain permanently neutral with a NATO ban. That's unconfirmed, but these demands reflect a potential hardline stance from Putin. Ukraine vows not to recognize annexations, and European leaders insist borders cannot change by force. But let's talk about the land swap talks that likely took place. Trump potentially floated a land swap, suggesting Ukraine relinquish parts of Donetsk and Luhansk, as reported by Axios. But Zelenskyy, absent from the Anchorage meeting, likely rejected all of this, citing Ukraine's constitution as a reason to not reach this deal. So likely no deal will be reached in the land swap in the short term. And then let's talk about some economic leverage. So Trump likely threatened sanctions or tariffs, while Putin potentially hinted at energy deals to cease US-Russian tensions. So picture Trump, the deal maker, pitching a grand peace deal to a steely-eyed Putin, whose KGB instincts read every move. Trump's call for a lasting agreement with Zelenskyy soon to join talks in Washington raises the stakes. But with no deal signed, the Alaskan sky erupts with a display of power louder than words. Bodie, as a military strategist, how do you assess the feasibility of Trump's push for a full peace agreement over a ceasefire?
Well, this is classic President Trump. I mean, I thought probably what would happen is a ceasefire and then working towards a peace later in the next year. But he's going for the gusto on this. I think there is a very real chance we have to do what's the best for the national interests of Russia, of Ukraine, and of the U.S. And they're all different, but if anybody can sort that out, it's President Trump over negotiations. So in the coming weeks, it's not going to be easy, but he'll get both parties talking, Putin and Zelenskyy, and perhaps he can just pull this off. My prayers are he can, because we need to bring this war to an end.
And let's talk a bit about the flyover and the setting. As Trump and Putin walk the tarmac, the ground shakes. A B-2 Spirit stealth bomber escorted by 4 F-35 Lightning II fighters tear through the sky. This isn't just a flyover, it's a statement. America's air power reigns supreme. Talk about being the big swing and you-know-what in Alaska. I think the B-2s definitely earned that title. And let's be honest, those jets are showing off like they're the big swing and you-know-what in the locker room. They're full of swagger, and this is a statement of American air power. The B-2 is a $2 billion ghost. It's built for stealth, its radar-absorbent skin and flying wing design dodge detection. It's powered by twin GE F-118 engines, and it can fly 6,000 miles without refueling, carrying 60,000 pounds with 2 GBU-57 30,000-pound Max ordnance penetrators. Used in 2025's Operation Midnight Hammer against Iran, taking down their nuclear sites, this is the returning heavyweight champion, and it screams American air power like no other jet can. The F-35 at $110 million each is a multi-role stealth fighter. Its A and APG-81 radar and sensor fusion gives pilots a 360-degree battlefield view. It's armed with AMRAAM missiles and precision bombs. It rules air and ground alike. Let's talk about negotiating with Vladimir Putin. It's like facing a KGB-trained chess master. He's got 16 years as a spy, forged from 1975 to 1991, focusing on mind control and deception. Let's just say Putin's playing this game with a poker face that knows how to count cards. We see what you're doing, Putin. It's essentially like Putin would get kicked out of every single casino in Vegas because he'd likely have the odds stacked in his favor. Kind of like Michael Scott from The Office saying, "I'm not superstitious, I'm just a little stitious."
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Ex-CIA officers have quoted his terrorist mindset as using disinformation to unsettle foes. In the talks, Putin likely aimed to rattle Trump with unexpected demands. That's a tactic he used on Latvia's president in 2001. Putin likely seeks to rebuild Russia's imperial reach, with Ukraine as the prize. His 2021 essay claimed Ukraine as Russia's historic domain. Putin's a psychological predator. Former US Ambassador John Barrell noted he shifted from hostility to flattery to disarm opponents. But as we've seen, Putin delayed this talk to potentially try to exhaust his foes. That's a KGB tactic, and also spreading disinformation is at the top of his strategy list, like false claims of Ukrainian biological weapons labs, to justify aggression and sow doubt. He could be exploiting Trump's urgency for a deal, pushing for concessions like sanctions relief or NATO exclusion altogether. So here's a hypothetical exchange. Imagine this. Putin leans forward, voice calm but sharp. "Donald, you want peace? Ukraine must give up Donetsk and Luhansk. It's only fair. Russia's already there." Trump smirks, unfazed. "Vladimir, you're dreaming. I'll triple Ukraine's HIMARS shipments and tank your oil exports if you don't agree to a peace deal now." Putin pauses, eyes narrowing, then offers a smile. "Perhaps we discuss energy deals instead. America could use Russian gas." Trump counters, "No deal unless you pull back from Kherson. I'm not here to play games. It's a battle of wills. Putin's calculated probes versus Trump's bold brinksmanship." Picture Putin, the ex-spy, probing Trump's resolve, every word a calculated jab. Trump hits back with a vision for lasting peace, backed by the B-2s and the F-35s overhead. This is a true duel of wits. Bodie, as a military commander, how effective do you think Putin's psychological tactics like flattery and disinformation are in high-stakes talks like these? And how can a leader like Trump counter them strategically?
Vladimir Putin is, well, he's an expert at these kind of things. But fortunately, President Trump is probably even better at negotiations. So there's going to be a lot of give and take. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall during those meetings. They had to be incredible with two large, dynamic personalities discussing something so important as this. This meeting could go down in history as one of the great meetings of the time, with trying to bring peace to the war-torn country. Now, having said that, I'll guarantee you, Vladimir Putin is trying his very best to get what he wants in his national interest and his personal interest out of this deal. So he's going to use every trick in the book. But he's up against probably the master, and that's President Trump. It's exciting times.
So Russia's grip on Ukraine's land truly shapes the war's future. Let's compare the current map to a hypothetical Russian plan to seize more territory. And that territory includes Kyiv by 2026. Russia's pushing hard, but Ukraine's fighting back like they've got the whole locker room cheering them on. It's halftime, they're down by 7 points, and they have to move forward. They've got the motivational speech from the coach, and there's nothing holding them back. They've got the weaponry from Europe and the US, and they're doing their best to hold off Russia. So Ukraine in this case is essentially Happy Gilmore saying the price is wrong, Bob.
Price is wrong.
But Russia controls roughly 19% of Ukraine, about 115,000 square kilometers. This includes Crimea, annexed in 2014, and parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia, also Kherson. And these were seized from 2022 to the present, to the time of this video being released. The front lines, per the Institute for the Study of War, are a jagged scar across eastern and southern Ukraine. Russian forces rely on S-400 air defenses and Lancet drones to hold these gains. But Ukraine's HIMARS and Bakhmut TB2 drones keep them under pressure. And it's worth saying that there were 24 Russian drone strikes on Ukraine during the actual summit between Trump and Putin. That was reported from Ukraine's air forces. But unconfirmed reports have said that Putin aims to push beyond the 19%, targeting cities like Pokrovsk and Kharkiv, and even Kyiv. A hypothetical plan could see Russia deploy 500,000 troops, T-90 tanks, and hypersonic Kinzhal missiles to encircle Kyiv, a city of 2.8 million, and that's essentially Ukraine's heart. This push would require a 200-mile push through Ukraine's fortified Donetsk lines and overcoming NATO-supplied Patriot systems. It could likely cost Russia 100,000 casualties and $50 billion. That would be Russia taking on the task of facing fierce urban resistance from Ukraine's drone units and special operations forces. So Bodhi, what do you think would happen if they decided to just solve this with a dogfight between the Su-57 and the F-35? I mean, that would be a lot less loss of life than having thousands of troops battle each other each week. So what would happen if these two jets were 100 miles apart in a cage match and we just said, all right, figure it out?
Well, I'm sorry, the poor Su-57's not going to stand a chance. He will probably blow up before he gets a radar contact. And that just really bites when you're trying to get into a fight and you blow up before you even see the other guy. But if they were to take it into a full closure, into a full dogfight, my bet is completely on the F-35 and our pilots.
So overall, Ukraine is outgunned in a way with numbers, but they're not outmatched. With Western tech, and Ukraine ultimately has an unbreakable spirit. The map definitely tells a story of defiance and a war that is far from over. Bodhi, as a military commander and strategy expert, what challenges would Russia face in executing a 2026 offensive to capture Kyiv and move beyond the current lines of territory that they hold?
You know, I think 3 years ago when this started, no one thought it would still be going on now. And the amount of land that Russia has seized is less than what we thought would happen. But if you look at trying to push to take Kiev, that is major, and that's even more land now than what's been acquired by Russia. And I think with talks like went on yesterday and future peace negotiations, not just truce, but peace negotiations, we've got to prevent that. First off, in national interest of the Ukraine and the U.S., you can't allow that large of a chunk of Ukraine to fall and Kiev to fall. So that's going to be hard. Now, that's an escalation of the war. Right now, we've got a great chance to de-escalate this. And the only way that Ukraine can win is with the support of the world, but we all know that's mainly the support of the U.S. to make that happen. So this is critical, and we don't want this thing to escalate. Oh, we don't want that to happen.
And Ukraine is fighting back hard with their mobile F-16 systems, and this definitely gives them leverage when it comes to air power. They've also shot down a Su-35, likely using the Saab airborne early warning control system in conjunction with their mobile guerrilla-style F-16s. I've got a full video on those guerrilla-style F-16s and how Ukraine is using those. They don't take off and land at the same spot. They take off, they fight their mission, and they land at a different spot to keep Russia's drones guessing. Bodhi, as a fighter pilot, how critical is Ukraine's adoption of the F-16 and their asymmetric tactics to counter Russia's air defenses?
You know, our F-16, designed back in the 80s, is still a viable jet today with the advanced weaponry and its maneuverability. It's still such a good jet today. But at the same time, when you bring a jet back and forth to the same runway every time, and with the drone situations, you're putting those jets in harm's way. So we know they're playing a shell game. They're moving the F-16s around. They have the maintenance, the fuel, the bombs, the missiles, and they move them around and keep a shell game going so Russia doesn't know where they're going to land when they come back. But this F-16, designed so long ago, of course, updated regularly over the years. And it's so much better capability when it was designed, but it's still basically an F-16 going against decades newer aircraft. That's how they pull it off. That's how they make it viable. It's an awesome scenario. The Ukrainian pilots are awesome pilots. They're protecting their country. Man, when you're going up and you take off and you're protecting your homeland, your family, where you live, you're going to take that game. You can take your game to the next level.
Bodhi, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate your professional insight. Any parting shots?
Different people will say different things. Oh, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do that. No, the negotiations now are at a high stake. We've got it to where it should be with President Trump and Putin talking, and now we'll talk to all the other players around, and it's national interest. Russia has theirs, Ukraine has theirs, we have ours, and they're all different, and we're going to have to compromise. That is going to be the art of the compromise to make this thing happen. So it's exciting, and I have a good feeling about this, that we can stop, and hopefully in the coming months, stop the needless killing going on in Ukraine, and let that country rebuild itself, and let Russia stop that. And here, if we get United States assets mining rare earth minerals in Ukraine, that's a whole nother ball game too. That makes Russia think twice about doing anything else.
So the Trump-Putin summit was a clash of giants. B-2s, F-35s overhead, a KGB master versus a deal maker pushing for a lasting peace deal. No agreement was signed as of yet, but Trump's vision remains clear. Get this war ended as soon as possible. Russia's territorial ambitions loom, but Ukraine's military rises with F-16s and drones and support like Patriots and other Western tech from companies like Anduril, advanced technology that is essentially adapting every single day to become stronger. So what I think is that Russia will eventually face a harder and harder time as they try to gain more territory, because these systems from partners with the US defense industry like Anduril are getting better every day. They're updating their AI, they're becoming more effective at shooting down Russian drones, targeting Russian cruise missiles. So Russia will likely have a harder and harder time as these systems are more innovative and more adaptive. And every day they become more innovative and adaptive because they're getting actual real battlefield testing every single minute of the day. So this is the war that is shaping the globe. Hopefully a peace deal is reached soon. What do you think? Do you think the peace deal will be reached soon? Or are we looking at multiple years of an ongoing conflict? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, the best compliment you can give me is just watch this video right here. Watching this video helps the channel grow a ton, and I would greatly appreciate it. So I'll see you on this video right here. This is Ryan, Max Afterburner, also known as the fighter pilot next door, signing off.